Very good afternoon, everyone. Very good afternoon, ma'am. We are now about to start with our session, everyone. A very warm welcome to everyone present here today. Before beginning with the session, please make a note of the rules and instructions which are to be followed throughout the session. Switch on your videos, but kindly keep yourself on mute all of the times. The forum will be open for questions and answer later, so kindly post your queries in the chat box only. Albert Einstein said once, creativity is seeing what others see and thinking what no one else ever thought. Good afternoon to one and all present here. I, Priyanka, on behalf of the institution's Innovation Council of Shaheed Rajguru College of Applied Sciences for Women, University of Delhi, would like to welcome Dr. Pallavi Arora, the speaker of today's webinar. I would also like to extend our sincere and heartfelt welcome to all the scholarly and knowledgeable teachers and to all the thoughtful and attentive audience present here. We are truly humbled beyond measure for such an overwhelming response. IC of Shaheed Rajguru College has organized this webinar on the topic Design Thinking, Critical Thinking, and Innovation Design. Design thinking is a process for solving problems by prioritizing the consumer's needs above all else. It relies on observing with empathy how people interact with their environments and employs an iterative, hands-on approach to create innovative solutions. We are honored to have Dr. Pallavi Arora as our speaker for today's session. Dr. Arora is the Senior Assistant Professor at International Center for Cross-Cultural Research and Human Resource Management, University of Jammu, India. Ma'am is the Regional Mentor of Change for the Atal Tinkering Labs in Jammu and Kashmir, which is an initiative of Government of India to promote innovation and entrepreneurship. Ma'am is also an Innovation Ambassador for the institution's Innovation Council. We would now like to welcome Dr. Pallavi Arora to tell us about design thinking and critical thinking.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Yeah, so it's a very, good afternoon and a Sunday afternoon to be sitting here amongst you all students. And it's nice to see so many of you, being a part of this session. And I would, of course, try that whatever expertise, whatever knowledge that I have, in the domain, I would really like to share with you. And of course, the fact that, I'm also associated with the Institution Innovation Council. So I know the, depth of work that goes into organizing such events and, to have, create this kind of an ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship in any college, in any institution. So I'm very happy to see the kind of response, from the students and from the faculty that's present here on a Sunday afternoon and just before lunch. So don't worry, I won't keep you waiting too long till lunch, and I won't I'm not gonna get you so long during that time. So you will be free by lunch, by lunchtime, so that you can just sit down and have a chat with your family and just talk about what happened today. So great to see you all. I'll just share my screen first, and then I have few things to share with you. Just a second. Just one second. I'm just trying to share my screen here. Can you see my screen?
No, ma'am, not yet.
Not yet? Okay. It's usually a thing with different systems, so I think it's taking a bit of a time. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Take your time.
Yeah. I can do one thing. I can even share the this thing with you,
Yes,
and you
ma'am.
can play it. Yeah, because I don't want to waste students' time.
Sure.
So yeah, just a second. Yeah, can you share the email ID with me? Yeah, can I have your email ID, please?
Priyanka, you can give your email ID to ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I've shared the mail ID of IC as well as, ma'am. You can also share the PPT with the person who is in contact with you.
All right, not a problem. Yeah, I'll just do that.
Sure.
All right, I've just shared it. Okay. I think it's because sometimes Mac doesn't allow you to share things with other systems. Maybe it's because of that.
No worries, ma'am. We'll be sharing
Yeah.
in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Just give us
Yeah.
Priyanka, enable all the permissions also. That might be the cause that ma'am is not able to share.
Yes, ma'am.
Though I've shared the presentation with you, so I think it should not be a problem. I can just indicate you when I need to change the slide. So in any case, it's there. Yeah.
Sure, ma'am. Just 2 minutes.
Yeah.
We'll be sharing it.
Not a problem. Not a problem at all.
Ma'am, we have shared the PPT.
Yeah, I was still trying. I thought maybe something would work out, so I'm also doing at my end. Not a problem.
No worries.
All right. So whenever there is a change of, the slide, I'll indicate. Yeah. All right. So
Sure.
you can definitely put it on a the bigger mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd request you to please show it on slideshow mode.
All right. So once again, a very, very good afternoon to all of you, and I shall now be beginning with my presentation. And I hope you would have some questions, some thoughts that would be popping up in your mind while we talk about design thinking, critical thinking, and innovation thinking. Before I ask get into depth in terms of what design thinking is, can any one of you tell me what is your name and understanding of what design thinking actually is? What when you came across this thought that okay, we're going to talk about design thinking, did anything just come into your mind and say that yes, we will be talking about some aspect of a product or a service, something that just came into your mind? Anybody? Just maybe one or two people. Anyone? Okay, no worries. So probably you have no clue about what we're going to talk about today. So design thinking is basically a discipline. So you can move to the first slide. Design thinking is basically a discipline that uses the designer's sensibility and methods to match people's needs with what is technologically feasible and what a viable business strategy can convert into consumer value and market opportunity. See, what is happening around is that we know that across this entire system of creating products and services, and this term called as innovation, this term called as thinking out of the box, that's all coming up. You are aspiring entrepreneurs, or thinking of things happening around you, why people are creating those things around you. The question that comes is that why are we creating products in a certain way? हम चीजों को क्यों एक नजरिए से एक तरीके से बना रहे हैं? But precisely, we always think, okay, fine, that there is somebody else doing it, for me. There is a manufacturer, or there is a person who's creating these products for us, and fine, we will have it someday in the market. But precisely, if you think about it, there was a time when we as customers were not aware of our needs as such. Anything and everything that would pop us to us, in the market, we would just go nicely, buy a product. For example, there was a time when if probably you speak to your mothers as well, you would come to know that the only shampoo that everybody and anybody was using was precisely maybe just Sunsilk or just a Clinic Plus. Beyond that, we were not thinking about things. Anything that was available in the market, or shampoo lena, we would just go and pick up one thing from the market, and the idea was that I had no clue about what kind of hair I actually had. But then, as designers, as thinkers, as marketers, started thinking more about it, they came across the fact that no, each of you is a different customer. Each of you is a different person who needs a different kind of a product. So to match your needs, they have to convey to you that they have to identify the problem that's existing in the market, and on the basis of that, they're going to create a product that suits you and that has to match up to your expectations and needs. So what happened was that these marketers, they made you identify the fact that probably you're the ones who've got maybe dry hair, thin hair, hair, silky hair, or whatever. So on the basis of that, now how many variants of shampoos do you see in the market? Have you ever just given it a thought that how many types of shampoos are there in the market? Isn't it a large number? So many brands and so many variants. So with this thought that that there are so many things happening in the market, the idea was to make you realize that you're special, okay, and there is a need that has been created in the market. Similarly, if I just have to get you on those layman lines, I would say that हमारी सबकी कोई ना कोई need है. There is something that's present in us that is unfulfilled, that we want somebody to really take on and solve a problem for us. And while we are thinking on those grounds to really somebody for us, or a manufacturer for us to think on those lines, or a designer for us to think on those lines, we need to really think on those lines of desirability, viability, and feasibility in products. All right. So when I say desirability, product that not meet the criteria of desirability are wanted or needed by customers or users. So there is a desire that I want to have these products for me as an individual or a customer. Willing to be a customer. If there's nobody who will buy your product. So to ensure that the desirability of your product is there, to solve in a way that is intuitive and easy. So there has to be something that's there, some itch that's creating, and something that needs to be solved. Then when we move on to the cycle of desirability and viability and feasibility, the first thing is desirability, that should stick to your mind. Second thing is viability. Now, why products need to meet the criteria of viability is because viability would make a very, very smart business case. There are products that will make or save money for a company both immediately and following their launch. So to basically analyze and understand that if there is a viable product, companies would actually need to understand who would be willing to pay for that product. I'm creating something. मैंने एक desire देख लिया, लेकिन वो डिजायर जो है वो जिस ऑडियंस के लिए मैं क्रिएट कर रही हूँ, they are not willing to pay for it. No, probably they don't have enough money to pay for it, and I am investing loads and loads of money creating that product. So do you think anybody is going to buy that product if they don't have that kind of money? No, they're not going to buy that product. All right, so we need to care, really think on lines that who will be willing to pay for that product, how will they pay for that product, and if they, if this ultimately is going up to land up into some sort of a profitability for my business or not. That's very essential. See, I'm a business person, and when I'm getting into a business, I'm not just doing it in terms of solving a problem or doing a social cause. I'm also thinking in lines of the profitability. I might think later in terms of the fact that how I'm going to, get it back and flow back my profits to reproduce that product once again back into the market with maybe changed features. So all these elements are very, very essential for us to understand. Once I've thought about this need that has been created and who is that person for whom I'm creating that product, I need to create a product that's more and more feasible. So feasibility would mean a product that can be built either by a company that can come up with the idea of the product, or a third party technologist, who could do it, with the right kind of know-how. So in order for a product to become very, very feasible, the company must be confident that the technology that is needed to build that kind of a product can be developed. So we have to have those areas of understanding that, why and how my product is going to ultimately, reach the larger ends, and why it has to be created. So that in a spot that you see in between on your screens, that's the area where innovation would take place. So there has to be that human touch of desirability. There has to be the touch of viability, wherein I say that wherein the ideation is going to take place, and we're going to say that, yes, we're going to make some sort of a business. Once I think on those lines, there has to be an implementation, trying to analyze if that can be created or not, and an inspiration that, yes, we can make that cycle move. And in that combination, this innovation spot that takes place, there is where I'm trying to create the right kind of a product. Okay. Can you think of a product? Anyone? I just want just one or two of you to think about it. Can any one of you think of a product which you think that cannot be sold? कोई ऐसी चीज जो आप सोच सकते हो कि नहीं बेची जा सकती? एक कोई भी product, like a fail idea. I'll just give you 15 seconds. Just think about one idea you think cannot be possible. Any one of you. Even the faculty could say, if you think that there is an idea which cannot work, so you can just come up with that thought. Okay, we were doing this little exercise wherein we were also asked to, okay, if somebody wants to say something, yeah.
Yeah, Ma'am Priyanka this side. Actually, it's not a product, but basically, I think that garbage is something that no one would like to purchase or utilize in any particular way, either in the form of business as well. I mean, I think garbage cannot be utilized in as a product or something
Okay.
as a business sort of thing.
You think garbage cannot be utilized.
Yeah.
Now, can I have anybody do a counter to it? Can somebody say that no, garbage can be used?
Ma'am, garbage is being used in businesses as nowadays businesses are sustainable and more of it is recycling and reusing things. So garbage is being used.
Garbage is certainly being used, yeah. So what I'm just trying to say here is that whenever we come up with the idea that ye nahi chal sakta, this is something that nobody can buy, but there will be a counter argument to it that says that no, ye chal sakta hai. So we actually have to understand that there is somebody in the world who's actually thinking on those lines. This is a small group of like about 75 people, and within us also, if we don't have enough time to talk about so many failure ideas, but then if we do, you would actually realize that yes, that there is that thought that everything in this world can actually be sold. So definitely, that innovation aspect has to be there. You can create even things out of the garbage, and of course that's happening truly. And after the session, you could even think on those lines that what are those failure ideas and how could those failure ideas be made to work. Those failure ideas are typically areas wherein people are making crores of money, making a lot of profitability, even serving the society by engaging in those initiatives which can solve a lot of problems for the society. So yes, definitely, that's where innovation comes in, that's where design thinking comes in. So can we move to the next slide? Yeah. So when I say design thinking and we talk about this process of, thinking about what's happening in the market, there is always a situation wherein, we have to identify and evaluate a process wherein we are empathizing, defining, ideating and prototyping. Now, when I say that there is a problem in the market, there is an inspiration that yes, I am going to do something. And when I start putting myself into the shoes of others, start thinking like others, I'm trying to empathize and gather things from the market and create that defining of problems. If you see that orange part in this curvical thing initially, you would actually see that there will be so many thoughts that will be coming that, oh god, there are so many problems happening in our society. So there comes an inspiration that do I want to be that person who wants to solve those problems? And so once I start thinking on those lines, I try to put myself into other shoes, gather all the perspectives around and start defining those problems. Now, if you see that slope coming down, the thing is that initially we may have, a bombardment of thoughts. There might be so many things that might be there in our mind ke, isko aise kar sakte hain, isko waise kar sakte hain. But practically speaking, जो मैंने आपको desirability, feasibility and viability का component बताया, if we go by those lines, not everything is feasible, not everything is viable, not everything is can be taken care of while we're talking about all these aspects. So we need to narrow down, we need to define what exactly in this setup do I want to do. And when I start defining, there are newer ideas that will start coming in. So that's where the ideation is taking place. If you see the blue thing that you see is where the ideation is taking place. Once I have a little bit of an idea in my mind that, okay, fine, that, there were so many things that I thought about, but that, yes, practically speaking, some were not feasible, some were not viable, some were not desirable. So I listed it down, narrowed it down to a few thoughts, got an idea, and now I want to put it into the market, to put it in some type of, designing it, shaping it in a way that can be useful for my market, something that my consumer wants to really look at. Okay, because this problem is coming from a consumer, so I need to get back to the consumer to see that whether he would want to have this product or not. So I start prototyping, I start developing this product on a smaller scale, trying to reach out to people, trying to, when I say testing, what I'm trying to do is that I'm creating not a factory kind of a product wherein initially day one chala jayega. I'm just creating a smaller of of the bigger thing, which I can actually show to the consumer and explain that this is this is where the problem was and this is what we are trying to solve. So can you try and fit in, or are there people who are wanting to have these kind of products into the market? Can we think on those lines? So we move on to the next slide. And I take you to this understanding of how how people would actually make use of these ideations and factors which would really shape. If you go to the next slide, wherein we have this Stanford design thinking model, which is exactly that divergence and convergence of thoughts. When you're empathizing, you're basically trying to develop a deep understanding of the kind of challenges that are present. There's a lot of things happening in our society, and there are a lot of things that require a solution. So we're trying to develop a deep understanding of all those challenges that are prevalent in our setups. Then once we have defined, or once we have empathized with the problem, we need to define it, we need to articulate what is exactly the kind of problem that I want to solve. मुझे चाहिए क्या, मुझे solve क्या करना है इसमें से, because I can't be taking care of everything in the situation. And once I've defined that, I start brainstorming what could be the potential solutions. What happens when you guys have a problem? For example, you all sit together and you have to solve a problem. When you start putting in your minds together, जब आप brainstorm करते हो, कितने सारे ideas निकलते हैं ना, that we could solve it in this manner, we could solve it in this manner. If you think about design thinking, it's exactly the same process. You're not doing something extraordinary, because I'm trying to make you understand the fact that we all can understand this procedure and get into thinking, expanding our thoughts. When we brainstorm, when we sit together, when we talk about our thoughts, we generate newer thoughts. So this multiplicity of thoughts would enable us to think of solving problems from multiple angles. And when we are thinking and trying to solve these problems from multiple angles, we might get those narrow down thoughts which could be more feasible, viable, and desirable. Okay. Then of course, you do this prototype to test probably all solution. And then when you're trying to engage with when you're testing it, when you're getting it back to the market, to empathize with those people where the problem started, you're trying to engage in a continuous short cycle of innovation process. So what we're trying here to do is to understand the innovation process from the beginning, and trying to continuously mend. For example, I took this prototype to the market, and somebody took my product and said that, no, I find that there are still problems in your product. It's not solving this problem for which you actually got it to the market. Now what do I do with that? अब मैं उसको वहीं तो नहीं छोड़ सकती हूँ. I came up with an idea, I got all this into the process, and after that, if I just think I'm leaving it, I'm not an entrepreneur. What I need to do is I need to gather all those critics. Normally what happens with entrepreneurs is that you take your prototype probably to your own family, to your own friends, and when you ask them, they might say, no, it's not a good product, it can't, ye nahi chal sakta. So if they tell you ye nahi chal sakta, ask them why, kyun nahi chal sakta, So get those thoughts also, not just sit amongst your peers, get those thoughts from your family, get those thoughts from people who would be the ultimate consumers of your product. Get all those things together to solve that problem, to make your product better. Normally what happens is that when somebody criticizes a product, हम क्या करते हैं? We think ये इसको मेरा product अच्छा नहीं लग रहा, तो ये गलत ही advice दे रहा होगा, ये मेरे favor में नहीं है, ठीक है? So question is not कि हमारी जब बात में कोई हाँ में हाँ नहीं मिलाता तो हमें वो अच्छा नहीं लगता. But when you are into the process of innovation, you have to take those critics. Even if it is the worst critic, you have to get to that person and ask him, why you're not liking my product? क्या होना चाहिए इसमें ऐसा? ये इसमें कैसा क्या चीज होती है जो आपको पसंद आता? ठीक है? So once you're grabbing all that information from multiple people, just imagine that you're now testing it appropriately to to basically improve your design. आपने अपना design improve करना है basically. So this is how it is going to help you and facilitate you. So if you move on to the next slide, you would actually see that when we are empathizing, we are conducting interviews, we are uncovering a lot of emotions, we are even gathering a lot of stories to understand that where the problem was. When you move on to the definition stage, you are creating a kind of a human-centric problem, identifying where the meaningful surprises and tensions were, and you're trying to gather insights. See, you cannot define your products, or you cannot define anything until unless you're very sure about what you want to do. But to get that surety, you need to gather inferences from other people around you. And ideation would come when you brainstorm all those radical thoughts which are happening in and around you, in and around your space, and not just utilizing your own mindset. तब वहाँ पे सिर्फ आप अपना mindset नहीं use कर रहे हो. What you're trying to do is that you're even trying to gather and grasp from the mindset of other people. You're trying to brainstorm. You're trying to suspend a kind of judgment in terms of क्या ये ठीक बोल रहा है? अगर ये ठीक बोल रहा है तो ऐसी क्या चीजें हैं जो मेरे को इंट्रोड्यूस करनी चाहिए so that I make a better version of my own product, you know. Just get it to your own self as an individual personality. Sometimes when people tell you that okay fine you lack this thing, ये आप चीज ना अपने personality में lack करते हो, what do you do to yourself? क्या करते हैं हम? When somebody says that you lack this, you know, this trait is not present in you, तो आप क्या करते हो उस पे?
We work upon
You
it.
work upon it. Yes. So as an individual, you work upon yourself. So think about your product. You know, your product is going to ultimately going to be used by so many people. So we need to keep on, you know, enhancing it, making it much, much better. So you need to judge, you know, whether what you thought from the initial stage, you know, it could be a possibility कि जो आपने सोचा हो कि मैं ये बनाऊंगा, शायद it might take altogether a different stage. It might take altogether a different shape while it reaches to the end, and the final product could be absolutely a brilliant one. And not exactly the one which you might have even thought of, but then it's coming from where you want to get back to. So it's that cycle that you're getting back to. जहाँ से शुरू हुआ था वहीं पे खत्म करना है उसको, ठीक है? So we need to get into that process. And when you're prototyping, you know, you are creating that exploration of objects and experiences around you. You're creating role plays to understand the right kind of features of the product that you were introducing, and grasping simultaneously in the product process to think and learn about what's happening around in terms of, you know, making this product accessible to people around you. And like I said, you know, testing it with your customers, trying to gain a deeper empathy, and even embrace failure. Like I said, normally we do not like when somebody criticizes what we have made. We don't like somebody criticizing us. But if you're an entrepreneur, be open to risk taking, be open to embracing failures, because there will be multiple times wherein, you know, you think I'm at the last stage, but somebody says no, I still find that there is a problem. You need to improvise upon that. That's not for cutting you down. That's for your betterment. That's for the fact that you are going to make this product a better version of what you were actually thinking. And of course, you know, when you have tested it, get it to the access. You know, there have to be guidelines for evaluating the work critically. You need to take it to the right people. You know, all of you as students of an institution, and of course, you know, with your IICs working a lot with you, you might actually be coming across a lot of people, you know, who are willing to listen to your ideas. Who, if you have an idea, you have a prototype, you have a thought that's coming, there are people, there are mentors who tell you that, you know, this is where you need to do work, this is where you need to improvise. So you need to work with those people to understand that whether I'm on the right track or not. And openly and you know, giving and receiving feedback is also, you know, very, very essential to the part of the product that we're actually trying to create. So in short, if you move on to the next slide, when we're empathizing, you actually have to understand who you're solving the problem for. When you're thinking in terms of defining and ideating, it's, you know, basically leveraging the fact that what their needs are. When you're thinking in terms of prototype, you're actually solving, you know, the how of the problem. And of course, when you're testing it and storytelling, it's why, you know, your work matters. So you need to be very, very sure in terms of this entire procedure of the innovation process that's so relevant to you. And in this relevant space, how you're reaching out to your audience, how you're reaching out to people. This is what is going to make you more, you know, more sustainable in terms of creating your product and service in the market itself. So we move on to the next slide, and I'm going to tell you where the problem spaces, you know, lies and where the solution spaces lie. You see, we started with a problem. हमने एक प्रॉब्लम देखा कि कुछ प्रॉब्लम था, वहां से हम वो एम्पथाइज, डिफाइन, आइडिएट, प्रोटोटाइप, इवैल्यूएट से इनोवेशन तक पहुंचे. बट when we are talking about these areas, don't you see that, you know, in the first circle you see that there is a problem space. जब तक हम ideate कर रहे होते हैं ना, until that time there is a problem that we are trying to examine. तब तक ज्यादा brainstorming चल रही है, defining चल रही है, polishing चल रही है. हम उस छोटे स्पेयर में काम कर रहे होते हैं where we are talking about more of the problem kind of a scenario. When we move on to the solution space, we are still ideating, because I said that you need to get back, you need to solve all those problems, you need to take those feedbacks. Prototype जब करोगे तभी feedback मिलेगा ना, तभी you will get to know कि हाँ, there is a problem that I need to solve, you know, there is a problem that requires a solution. So now you're getting into that solution space. So we have to be very careful in terms of defining our problem space as well as our you know, solution space, because then is when we actually understand that we are going to cater to the kind of audience that we want to, and problem that we are focusing upon. So with this, I would now take you to understanding the double diamond approach to design thinking, which is the next slide. Yeah, so we can move on to the next slide itself. All right, so see, when we began with this entire process of innovation, there were so many thoughts. सब कुछ कितना बड़ा बड़ा था ना, bigger problems, bigger thoughts, lot of things to talk about, lot of things which were there. तो वो पहले हमने बढ़ाई, we actually created those that massive number of things. हमने numbers बढ़ाए पहले. I got in more number of people to think about my idea. I asked more number of people to come, brainstorm, ideate, share their perspectives. So ultimately what happened, मेरे पास बहुत सारी thoughts बन गई, ठीक है? So didn't I diverge? Initially मैंने क्या किया? मैंने diverge किया. I created options for myself. One thing that I would just want to share here is, normally when we are thinking, जब हम एक ideation stage पे होते हैं ना, हम सोचते हैं हम अपना idea किसी के साथ share नहीं करेंगे. I'm not going to share my idea because if I do it, somebody else will do it and he is going to become a crorepati. Isn't that? Most of us think like that. But the problem is that when we go with that approach, we are limiting ourselves. Okay, if you have to create a product and you have that ideation thought in yourself, nobody can pull it away from you. In fact, they could possibly be the critics to tell you that where you need to improvise on your product. So ultimately, you need those bottlenecks also to be supporting you in that process. All right, get them in. Sit with more people, talk to more people, because initially, what the idea that remains is that we need to diverge our thoughts so that we have number of ideas, so that ultimately we can narrow it down. हमें बाद में तो उसको कम ही करना ना. I cannot go with everything. So converge करने से पहले मुझे diverge भी तो करना है. So create those initial choices. पहले लोगों को बिठाओ. Get people, think more about it. So the double diamond approach is very simple. Might look complex in a diagram, but then when you put it together, you would actually realize that नहीं, लोगों को सुनना भी जरूरी है, ठीक है? That's why we are empathizing and where we are defining. So when you have that divergence space, that's where you are creating number of ideation. और converge करना इसलिए जरूरी है because we are not going to endlessly have everything in my product. I'm just going to have fewer things which could solve the problem, which could enable my my customers to be able to come out of a challenge that was initially there. So we move on to the next slide with that, because this will enable you to understand that how we were. So you see where I started from, and where we started from the divergence to the convergence, and again the divergence and to the convergence on the initial space. हमने यहीं से शुरू किया था. We started with the innovation process from here. We started with the design thinking process from here, and I said that you see that the how it's expanding and it's going down again, expanding again, going down. That's where the convergence and divergence is actually taking place. Okay, so we move to the next slide. All right. So now this is a combination of the two things that I told you, where the convergence and the divergence took place in collaboration with the initial human-centered design thinking process. Just have a close look at this diagram. Just have a understanding, and you would actually realize that when we are creating that inspiration, where the ideas are coming in, the ideas are moving, and there is the the problem space. There is where the divergence and the understanding and the definition of ideas needs to expand. वहाँ पे हमारे को अपना thought process जो है उसको expand करना है, ज़्यादा सोचना है, ज़्यादा लोगों को involve करना है, ठीक है? जितना ज़्यादा brainstorming करेंगे, जितनी ज़्यादा story telling करेंगे, जितना ज़्यादा problem के अंदर in depth जाने की कोशिश करेंगे, उतना ज़्यादा solution space easier बनता जाएगा, ठीक है? The more we are into understanding where the problems are, what needs a solution, then it will make the solution space much easier. And where is the solution space? It is where it is in between the ideation and the implementation. So I move from the problematic scenario to the solution scenario, wherein we're trying to develop prototype, where we're trying to create the product in such a manner that it is going to solve a problem. It is going to solve a problem in a way that there is a possible solution which is liked by my customers. So there is where how I'm trying to resolve and come to handling this problem from a larger context. All right. Now, when we're trying to do this, If you move to the next slide, you'd actually see and find it a little bit more complex, but I would make it a little more easier for you. All right. So doesn't this look like a very, very complicated kind of a diagram? You see so many things diverging, converging, and I began with the process, and now there are too many things that are written on the screen. Don't worry about it. We're going to narrow it down. Initially, when you begin with the challenge, when you begin with the problem, the question that arises is that I don't know too many things about this, isn't it? You see, if you just look at the A section of, if you look at the left part of your screen, you would say that it says don't know, could be, I'm still not aware about what's happening in my. Kai baar aap jate ho, you move out in the market, you're looking at things around you, but you're not sure about, how this could be solved. Aapko problem nazar aa rahi hai, theek hai? You see that there is a problem. For example, Priyanka said that there is a, probably, you looked at garbage as one angle. ठीक है, शायद आपने अभी उसको उस एंगल से शायद अभी नहीं देखा, तो मे बी आपको लगा यार ये प्रॉब्लम है, इसको सॉल्व कैसे करना है, ठीक है, लेकिन देयर वाज सम अदर पर्सन हु सेड कि नहीं ऐसा हो सकता है. Okay, so if you guys collaborate together, and if Priyanka thinks that yes, this is a bigger problem that needs a solution, and if you guys collaborate and start working together, and you have more people in your team who could be thinking on those lines as to how garbage could actually be thought of in terms of a usable product, or how you could improvise to solve not many but one problem, then again it is going to move from that don't know or could be kind of a situation. So now I know something about it. Now I know how to solve a problem. So initially there are going to be a lot of questions, there are going to be a lot of challenges, there are going to be a lot of client briefs. Somebody might come to you and says that okay fine, this is a problem that I want a solution to, and the client doesn't have a solution to it. It's not always that you are solving a problem. There might be a client, there might be a customer who comes to you and says कि भाई मेरा ये problem है, मैं इसको solve करना चाहता हूँ, just tell me how am I going to do it. Now you are the manufacturer, you are the one who's going to resolve it for him, so you have to create those options for him. So once you are thinking of creating those options for him, you have to define your areas of work. You have to grasp information from your client to gather as much as possible, to talk to the kind of clientele that he's wanting to deal with. वो किस लोगों को अपना प्रोडक्ट बेचना चाहता है. Get back to the initial thing of desirability, feasibility and viability. वो किसके पास जाना चाहता है, वो अपना प्रोडक्ट किसको सेल करना चाहता है. अगर वो सेल करना चाहता है तो उसको कोई प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी आएगी. How is he going to deal and cater with people in and around his space so that ultimately he could make a profitable venture and also simultaneously solve a problem as well. Okay, उसको दोनों चीजें करनी है. Now when he's defining his areas, or probably when you are supporting him in defining those areas, you have to build a number of while you converge. जब आपने diverge किया, आपको उसके बाद converge भी करना है. You're not going to have as many problems. You're going to narrow it down to building certain types of themes and cluster, and gain a lot of insights from the problems that are having that are actually prevalent there. And amongst all of those problems, you're not going to use all. You are going to deduce what are the opportunity areas. ठीक है, जब आप काम करना शुरू करोगे, you will actually understand कि no, this is the area that could be profitable, this is the area that could not be profitable. If we have to choose from between A and B, wherein A is a profitable side and B is not a profitable side, you think on those lines that no, A might give me an opportunity to have better profits, and also gains an aspect wherein I could sell it to the right kind of people, and also the fact that people are willing to buy my product. Okay, that's the time when that deduction of the opportunity areas is going to frame into how might we do these kind of things. HMW is a term that's used in design thinking, which we say that HMV, how might we. वो क्वेश्चंस लाने हैं कि इसको सॉल्व कैसे करना है. अगर ये चीज है, इसको कैसे सॉल्व करेंगे, ये एरिया है, इसको सॉल्व कैसे करेंगे, प्रोडक्ट अच्छा है, डायमेंशंस अच्छी हैं, सब कुछ अच्छा है, लेकिन हमने जब उसको मार्केट में लेके जाना है, अगर प्रोडक्ट को इस कॉस्ट पे बेचेंगे तो क्या मेरा कस्टमर इस कॉस्ट पे इस चीज को खरीदेगा. अगर नहीं खरीदेगा तो मुझे इसको डेवलप कहाँ से कराना है, सो दैट it becomes a technologically feasible product, so that it could actually be going into the market at the right kind of a cost. So I have to work upon all of those how might be questions, so that this product goes to the right type of people in the right time with the right cost, making the right kind of profitability. All right, so that's the initial space जहाँ पे हमने doing the right things तक है कि हमें पहले तो बहुत सारी चीजों को resolve करना है. Then we narrow it down to doing the things right. जब हम डाइवर्जेंस पे आते हैं, जब हम आइडिएट पे आते हैं, तो पहले एक बैकग्राउंड वर्क वी हैव ऑलरेडी डन. ठीक है, कुछ पोर्शन ऑफ वर्क वी हैव ऑलरेडी रिजॉल्व्ड, सम क्वेश्चंस हैव ऑलरेडी बीन सॉल्व्ड फॉर अस. कुछ कर लिया, नैरो डाउन भी कर लिया. अब हम आइडिएशन पे आते हैं. अब चाहिए क्या? ठीक है, अब हमने सोचा प्रोडक्ट की फिजिबिलिटी, वायबिलिटी, सब कुछ सोच लिया. नाउ when I have narrowed it down to certain ideas, not too many, few of them. When there are few of them, I need to evaluate my ideas. ठीक है, अब मुझे सोचना है कि कौन से ideas जो हैं वो best चल सकते हैं. ठीक है, so set those ideas and you have to design your vision. You have to design in terms of what what your client was actually wanting you to do, or probably what you as an entrepreneur were actually wanting to do. तो क्या मुझे मेरी thoughts क्या हैं इस product के बारे में? How should I proceed ahead so that I have the right kind of an approach to deal with this scenario and evaluate all of these things. So what are you going to do once you have set your vision right and first ideas, potential solutions भी सोच लिए हैं, अपनी जो hypothesis create करी है उसके लिए एक hypothetical answers भी ढूंढ लिए हैं, then you start prototyping and testing and analyzing whatever is in your mind. You start creating smaller models of what was there initially to make give it a form of a shape. अब आप सोचोगे कि हम मेरे पास तो कुछ है नहीं, how do I do it? You won't believe that people bring their ideas into shape even using cardboards and scissors and tapes. So that's how they start creating their product, because technically we may not have initially got the right kind of technical expertise also. हमारे पास हर time technical expertise नहीं ना होती. So we have to create a prototype. So लोग prototypes उससे भी बना लेते हैं, and ultimately they would take it to former people to create that little prototype for them. There are, for example, we have these IITs and IIMs, especially the IITs, they do it for you. वो आपको बना के देते हैं kind of a prototype. When you explain them that this is the thought, this is where I want to do it, ये मैं ऐसा करना चाहता हूँ, तो मुझे आप इस तरह का कुछ चीज बना के बताओ. ठीक है, that's where the prototyping actually starts taking shape. So you learn from from the mistakes, you iterate, you repeat, and you again build and repeat and iterate on this process and ultimately converge your thoughts. जब आप convergence पे आते हो, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get into a solution. अब आप solution space में आने की कोशिश कर रहे हो, and here is the time जब आपका prototype भी create हो रहा होता है ना, उस stage पे भी आपको ये समझ आने लग जाती है कि ठीक है, design में ये issues हैं और मुझे इसको solve करवाना है. Some things you might evaluate as the potential creator of that product, and some things you might have to gather from other people, maybe your potential customers जिनके पास आप अपना prototype लेके जाते हो. And also the fact that nowadays there are a lot of forums. I am really sure that as an institution might be getting invitations to a lot of hackathons and ideation competitions, wherein maybe even some of you might be going and presenting your ideas. But initially हम क्या करते हैं, हम उसको सिर्फ एक पेन एंड पेपर वर्क पे रखते हैं. इनिशियल थॉट क्या है, हम एज स्टूडेंट्स हम क्या करते हैं, एज स्टूडेंट्स हम उसको एक शेप देते हैं कि yes, this is what my idea is, this is a product, this is a service that I want to create. But then when you go to these competitions, don't you get a lot of feedback from there? क्या आपको वहां पे बहुत सारा फीडबैक नहीं मिलता that did you think on these lines? क्या आपने इन चीजों के बारे में सोचा? Did you think that you could improvise your product, or did you think that even this individual could be your customer? ये भी आपका customer हो सकता था. So हो सकता है कि a lot of thoughts we did not begin with, but then when we start prototyping and taking our product from that initial phase wherein it was very very raw to giving it a polished shape, it takes time, but then it requires a lot of feedback from a lot of people. So we need to be open to having that right kind of people, and the double diamond approach to design thinking means is a facilitator in that process, wherein if you go by that convergence and divergence process, you would actually understand that there are so many things that you can actually cater to in the right kind of a space. So if we move to the next stage, next slide, you would actually see that while you're onto the first phase of discovery, that divergence phase, this is is your session, a time where the team is going to explore a lot of problems, all the target projects that are exploring the root cause of the problem and applying a kind of a field research to understand what could be your target challenge. So आपको initially वो सारी discovery करनी है. You're going to become a kind of an explorer. आपने initial बड़ा काम करना है that you have to start mapping where the problems are, how I'm going to solve those problems. तो पहले जब तक आपको अपनी core problem understand नहीं होगी, it will be difficult to move to the convergence stage. So double diamond का first aspect ही यही है that you start discovering the initial problems that are created. All right. So you would engage into developing a lot of mind maps. आपने कभी सोचा that we create those stories in our mind? हम जोड़ते रहते हैं चीजों को, ऐसा कर लेंगे तो ऐसा हो जाएगा, ऐसा करेंगे तो ऐसा हो जाएगा. So what is the purpose of creating all those mind maps? Those mind maps actually start reflecting into paper. You start penning it down, you start identifying, अच्छा ये problem ऐसे, इसको मैं इसके साथ ऐसे जोड़ूं तो हम इसका कोई solution ढूंढ सकते हैं. You create mind maps, you have to have multiple perspectives towards, problem framing. You're not going to be, rigid in terms of identification of the problem. You're going to be very, very flexible, open to understanding, open to people's way of responding to your problem and challenge. And you need to brainstorm and reverse brainstorm. पहले आप अपनी थॉट बताओगे, लोगों के साथ बात करोगे, फिर जब वो आपके साथ अपना कुछ शेयर करेंगे, you will even ensure that you incorporate those things to the betterment of your product. And of course you have to do a lot of test research. You have to sit down, try and analyze what other people in the domain are doing. ठीक है, जैसे कोई भी आप प्रोडक्ट पकड़ लो and just pick up anything in the world. Okay, हम recycling की बात करते हैं ना. So there are multiple ways in which people have come up with the thought of recycling, and they might not actually be putting things back into machinery and getting them recycled. They might be doing it in terms of multiple methodologies as well. How many of you are aware of the brand called H&M? I'm sure many. I can see many raised hands now. All right, because this makes more sense to you. All right. Okay. So when I say that, you're aware of this brand called as H&M, do you know what H&M is doing for recycling? No, we were more interested in the brand itself.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
as far as I know, if we go with a bag full of old clothes, then we get an outfit for free.
Okay. You're partly right, but of course it could be in different parts of the country as well, but they might be doing different schemes for it. If you go with the H&M clothes, if you want to get back put back the clothes, there's a big kind of a dustbin thing that's there, and you just put your clothes there, and they are going to recycle the clothes. So that's one way of doing it. There's another way that you could even rent the clothes. So there are people, for example, I've used some dress of mine, I don't want it now, so I go and I put it back to the H&M store, and they are the ones who are going to put it on rent. So somebody might just take it. I might not be all the time needing a wardrobe full of clothes. So what do is I just go rent it for a period of time, get it back, and it's gone. Okay, so multiple thoughts now to do it, multiple thoughts now to bring in a recycling pattern into your ways. So what I'm just trying to do is that, or trying to say is that we sometimes look at things from a narrow angle, and we don't try to presume that because of the multiplicity of thoughts of people and the ways in which people are solving problems, we could incorporate all of that into our journeys as well. Be those who could be bringing in all of those thoughts to make lives easier, to solve a lot of problems. So thinking, discovering the problems, doing a lot of research about your problems becomes very, very essential. So ये सब सोच वोच जो है हमें करनी पड़ती है, otherwise we would be stuck up with little thoughts. So we go to step 2, which is the next slide. Define step is the convergent part of the problem space, as it allows you to be narrowing down into a clear definition of the problem. ठीक है, मैंने आपको बताया ना कि initially कितनी problems होती हैं. There are so many problems that are arising, so many things that we need to take care of, but we are practically and potentially not aware of how we are going to solve it. ठीक है, लेकिन जब हम उसको define करने लगते हैं ना, narrow करने लगते हैं, ठीक है, you have to get to the root cause analysis. Now again, who's going to help you with that cause analysis? Number one is you. You are the person who's going to, question, why it has to be done, where it is going to be done. ये सारे questions आपको डालने पड़ेंगे, ठीक है? Once you start analyzing things from multiple perspectives, start guessing how you could solve multiple things. It's going to bring to you a lot of clarity in terms of where you started to where you're wanting to go. So जब आप ये clarity लाने की कोशिश करते हो, what will happen? क्या होगा जब हम ये clarity लाएंगे? What happens when we're trying to get clarity to जो हमने इतना सारा काम किया, इनिशियली हमने कितनी बड़ी बड़ी प्रॉब्लम्स डिफाइन करी, अल्टीमेटली जब हम उसको छोटा करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं तो उसका बेनिफिट क्या मिलेगा? What benefit do I see?
We'll basically narrow down our ideas to the ideal product that we are thinking to make up, I guess.
Okay, yes. The fact that remains is that because the story becomes too large when we have too many problems at hand, and when we cannot potentially solve all the problems, we need to make it small. We need to, make our problems solve. We need to think in terms of how I could solve this problem in a better way. So when I'm thinking of, solving this problem by using the 5 whys approach, we might, have to ask questions. किसी भी चीज में ना कम से कम 5 बार why पूछो. Why, for example, say suppose why a battery is dead, and why the alternator is not functioning, why the alternator belt has broken. I'm just saying it could be any 5 why पूछोगे तो कुछ ना कुछ जवाब तो मिलेगा ना. Or probably you could think in terms of why the alternator belt was beyond its useful life or not replaced. Again नहीं समझ आ रहा क्या हो रहा है, हम एक और क्वेश्चन पूछ लेंगे. हम सिर्फ एक बैटरी डेड होने पे हमने इतने सवाल डाल दिए कि why the vehicle was not maintained and to the recommended service salute क्यों नहीं किया. So जब 5-7 बार ये चीजें हम कर लेंगे ना, why, ask yourself why this did not happen, then you start getting answers. अच्छा ऐसा भी हो सकता था ना, मैंने ये सोचा ही नहीं. And when you start putting these questions to other people, they will also give you newer whys. Okay, so get into your system, ask user stories. There might be people, जैसे आपने H&M के बारे में मुझे एक solution बताया, that this is probably what they might actually be doing. So let us think in terms of from the perspective of a user. Were you happy as a user doing that? Did you actually get a cloth? Were you able to rent a cloth? ठीक है, आपको क्या ये सब चीजें हुई आपके साथ? How happy were you at the end of the thing? So when you start getting all of these stories, start creating those affinity diagrams कि अच्छा यूजर खुश था, यूजर को मजा आया ये चीज, ठीक है, वो इतना पे किया, इतने पे उसको खुश हुआ, इतने पैसे, अच्छा ज्यादा पे किया है तो वहां पे उसको अच्छा नहीं लगा that he paid something extra for it. So when you start creating those diagrams, जैसे detectives अपने diagrams बनाते हैं ना, design thinking is also like that. You have to create all those maps and those affinity diagrams to see कि अच्छा ये links जो हैं ये अच्छे बन सकते हैं, ये links अच्छे नहीं बन सकते हैं. So when you have created that mental map, that affinity map, it is certainly going to facilitate you in terms of narrowing down and making a better product, and a product which is going to be liked by more and more number of people. Okay, so we move on to the third step. Third step would be developing, जहाँ पे हमने आपको बोला ना कि आप प्रोटोटाइप करोगे, बनाना शुरू करोगे, ठीक है. Developing is the first step in the solution space. मैंने आपको पहले भी बताया था, the problem space and the solution space. So developing is the first step in the solution space. And in this step, here what you're going to do is that you're going to build a prototype of the solution and test it involving in the end user in the testing process. So अब यहाँ पे हम क्या कर रहे हैं, हम एक minimum viable product बना रहे हैं, बड़ा expensive product नहीं बनाएंगे यहाँ पे. What we're just trying to do is that we're just wanting that people here should be able to know, access, touch my product, see कि ये अच्छी चीज बनाई है, नहीं बनाई है, कोई problems है. एक basic product जो है, ठीक है, वो हम create करके rapid prototyping करके उसको market में लेके आ रहे हैं, ठीक है. We are going to do a little bit of storytelling because right now the product is not in its exact shape. So I will be telling people that this is how the product is created, this is what the uses are, you test it, you see it, you use it, okay. And then when the customer, this person is testing your prototyping, start mapping his journey, okay. Start mapping what this consumer is feeling. Try to gain as much as from the consumer to understand that अच्छा ये product में उसको चीज पसंद नहीं आई, हो सकता है एक को पसंद आई, दूसरों को नहीं पसंद आई, ठीक है. Just try to map how many people are in line with it. क्या ज्यादा लोगों को अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है, या ज्यादा लोगों को गंदा लग रहा है, कैसा लग रहा है आफ्टर यूजिंग योर प्रोडक्ट. सो दिस इज व्हाट यू हैव टू मैप. जितना ज्यादा मैपिंग कर पाओगे अपने कंज्यूमर की एट द स्टेज ऑफ प्रोटोटाइपिंग, उतना बेटर आप अपने प्रोडक्ट को यूज करने के लिए एक्सेसिबल बना सकते हो. ओके, वी मूव ऑन टू द लास्ट स्टेप which is delivery. Okay, when you have to deliver your final product, अब ये कहाँ से आया, हमने कितना नैरो डाउन किया ना, शुरू से शुरू किया, आइडिएशन से शुरू किया हमने, थॉट्स को नैरो डाउन किया, डिफाइन किया, प्रोटोटाइप भी बनाया. Now you have to deliver the final product to the consumer, and you also have to get feedback that will be used to improve the product in the future. ठीक है. What happens when you buy a car? जब गाड़ी खरीदते हो, गाड़ी घर आ जाती है, do you start using a car. कई बार आपको गाड़ी लेने के बाद लगता है कि बड़ी अच्छी गाड़ी ली है, I've purchased a wonderful car. Sometimes what happens, हर बार ही अच्छी लगती है गाड़ी, या प्रॉब्लम्स भी लगती हैं. Yes, anyone? Do we just forget about a car, anything that you purchase, हम बड़े शौक से कोई चीज लेके आते हैं, that I spend lots of money on something, got it home. When I start using it, I understanding, oh God, it's not worth it also. Okay, I spend so much money on a laptop. I spend so much money on probably a mobile phone because my friend said that it was nice and somebody else was using it. But when I got it home, it doesn't match my needs. Probably I spent extra money. मैंने ज्यादा पैसे खर्च दिए और शायद मुझे इतने का तो फोन भी नहीं चाहिए था. ठीक है, मुझे तो इतने फीचर्स भी नहीं चाहिए थे. I was only depending upon somebody else. So probably this product was maybe not meant for me. Okay, it was not wanting to cater the needs of a customer like me maybe. Okay, so that's why I said that prototyping stage was very, very essential to identify your right kind of consumer. So once you have created this final product, it is very, very essential to gather feedback from your employees, so from your customers, so that you could actually improvise तो एक कंटिन्यूअस आइटरेटिव प्रोसेस है which is going to go on. ठीक है, आपकी गाड़ी भी खराब हो जाती है, आपको लोग फोन करते हैं फीडबैक लेने के लिए कि हमने सर आपकी गाड़ी ठीक करके दी है, so we hope it is okay now. So what happens if you still think that no, there are errors, you want your car to go back and to be repaired once again and check out all the problems that are there. So ये बहुत जरूरी है that once the product has gone into the market, it needs to be validated. It needs to be, the customer needs to be assured that yes, this is the right thing that I paid for and I was able to pay for, and it satisfied my need, for which I bought this product. So you could do it in multiple forms. You could have surveys, you could have a shadowing kind of a thing, that जो आपने किया है replicate करके देख लो फिर से, whether it fits into the market system or not. You could even think aloud. You could have open door meetings, have customers come and sit with you, talk to you where they are finding problems, and ultimately it could lead to a better creation of a better product. All right, so you can move to the next stage, next slide, wherein this double diamond process of discovery, definition, developing and deliverance has been there. Now the new double diamond design process framework basically talks about a team that can jump from problem definition point back to discovery. ठीक है, जहां आपने प्रॉब्लम को डिफाइन किया है आप वापस जाओ. अब कहते हैं कि आपको लास्ट स्टेज, हम तो जो इनिशियल डबल डायमंड है उसमें तो हम पूरी 4 स्टेजेस कंप्लीट करते हैं ना. नाउ दे से दैट इवन आफ्टर डिफाइनिंग, गेट बैक, जंप बैक, थिंक. If more information is needed to be explored or collected to build a clear definition of the problem. Normally where the problem comes at the time of creating products is that we're not really sure that we have touched upon the right problem. Okay, so when there is not the right problem, it might be causing us problems in terms of finding the right kind of solution. So you jump back. If you see that little arrow, you jump back from the definition stage to the discovery stage. You can also jump back from deliverance to the develop stage. ठीक है, आप अपनी, जब आपने बना भी लिया प्रोडक्ट, बनाने के बाद भी आप डिस्कवरी स्टेज पे आ सकते हो. Why? Because you would actually understand that if the product testing shows that you need other types of prototypes, maybe you require some other things still yet to be done into the product, which could improvise your product, and then it could be getting back into the market and sold at better prices, better mechanisms could be used. And of course, the usage of feedback from the consumers is forwarded to the discovery stage. जो हम फीडबैक करते हैं उसको डिस्कवरी स्टेज पे कंसिडर करना इसलिए जरूरी है, so that there is a continuous improvisation into the product that you are actually creating, and this product is something which you actually wanted to create and build. Okay, I move on to the last slide. And I'm just going to share a little story about what Nike did. Have you heard about this? This thing that happened with the Nike shoes. A lot of athletes, while they were running the races, what they felt was that their socks were slipping down when they were running in the race. How terrible it would be for a athlete that he's getting so distracted कि उसकी socks जो हैं वो नीचे because he's running too much, so they're slipping down. This became like a problem. Now, any guesses what Nike did to counter it? No, that's not on your screen. That's something that's right now not on your screen. So, can anyone of you guess how Nike tried to solve this problem? Socks नीचे गिर रही हैं of an athlete who's trying to win a race. How would they solve this problem?
मैम सॉक्स के बैक साइड पे उन्होंने ग्लू टाइप कुछ लगा दिया था, मतलब जब हम सॉक्स पहनते हैं तो वो अब नीचे नहीं जाते सॉक्स.
Okay, this is an idea. Good. Can we have another idea? Anything else which you think that Nike could have done or Nike did? Anyone? All right. One is a good idea. Some kind of a sticky thing behind the glue kind of thing so that the it would not slip down. What Nike did was they created a shoe which already had inbuilt socks. Okay. Now this sock was not a very, very long type of socks. It was just an inbuilt sock, so you wear it like a shoe. You just slip your foot in like a shoe and it's done. You need not wear socks. So the athletes, when they tried, they tested it, and when they were running in the, now this was like a prototype that they created for the athletes to actually test that if they were running an actual race, would something happen? So the athletes actually wore it, they ran the races, and they actually found during the prototype testing that it was all good. They did not face this problem. There was no sock slipping, and they were quite comfortable with it. Okay, so this is one thing that Nike did to solve this kind of a problem. So you see that there was a problem, okay, which the company was trying to solve. And another, for example, if you talk about the recycling and using of waste, जैसे आप बोल रहे थे garbage and waste, you see that's on your screen that Nike makes haste and cuts waste. Okay, so what they have done is that they have changed the type, the basic anatomy, I would rather say, of the shoe. उन्होंने उसको बनाना ही different materials से शुरू कर दिया, which are more eco-friendly, which are more recyclable materials. So most of the companies are now coming up with solutions that could actually solve problems. Now, this is my last slide, and what I want to convey to you before we move on, to your next stage of understanding as an individual, as a potential business aspirer or an aspiring entrepreneur, what I want to convey to you is look for problems around you. Okay, just try and see that there are so many things happening in our environment, so many things happening in our society that require solutions in terms of products and services. And if we are the people who feel those problems around us, if we are the persons who actually realize that, fine, these are things happening, but then if we wait for somebody else to create a product for us, it might take time. It may, you face a problem, somebody else may also be facing a problem, but then why not you be the solution? Why not you come together as teams and look for solving problems? I have given you the double diamond approach. Okay, of course, yes, it's a more theoretical approach, but then across the globe, people have been using the double diamond approach to solve multiple problems, and this has basically enabled them to bring out solutions for countries, for companies, for people, for customers that are potential solutions, and that are paving way for progress, not just for them as individuals, in terms of profitability, but also contributing a lot towards the society and the environment. So start thinking on those lines. This is just a beginning step, but then you could also be a part of that change. So I just close my presentation here, and I'm happy that you all listened to what I talked about, and I really think that you would have found my presentation useful for all of you. So any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Pallavi. It was very nice and indeed informative session. So everyone, I have posted the feedback form in the chat box. You could fill it up, as well as the question forum is open up. You can ask any questions if you have from Dr. Pallavi Arora. You please post it in the chat box. We'll read it aloud. Ma'am, meanwhile, we have questions from the audience. I would like to ask one question from
Yeah.
you. Like you explained us about testing of the
Yeah.
product. So I have one question regarding the testing part. Like, how could we determine that what number of times I need to, provide my product to people so that the testing is done? I mean, like, what is that proportionate level to up to which I should, provide my products to people or the consumers, or to analyze, like, what should be the minimum or the maximum, limit of testing my product, basically, to move on to further, production of it.
Okay. Now, see, a prototype, like I said, is a very smaller format. It's not that you're not doing mass production at that point in time. आप बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं produce कर रहे हो, ठीक है? You just, what you're trying to do is that you're trying to reach out to your potential customers in the sense that आपने जहाँ से problem identify करनी शुरू करी थी, when you started defining your problem, that was the stage wherein you thought of a customer in mind. Probably people came to you and said that, this is a problem that we have, this is what we want to, a solution for. So you have a basic understanding of who is the potential buyer of your product. Okay? आपको अपना buyer एक tentative तो पता ही है. You have to, there's no tentative numbers that, you have to have 50 products or you need to have 100 products. You don't need to go by numbers. You have to go by quality. And also in terms of the critics, like I said, that that's so important in terms of reaching out to people. So have your product reach to multiple strata of people. Okay, don't restrict your product going into just one type of people. For example, I know if I give it to my friends, who would be the only people testing it, and I know that I could have some biased feedback as well. So it is always better to go and reach out to multiple strata of people so that you have an understanding of the kind of feedback that would be coming to you. Get feedback, have the feedback. Then what you need to do is normally what students or normally what people creating, they reach out to multiple forums. What they do is that once they have a little kind of a feedback, it's like a kind of a pilot study that you have already done. Once you have that pilot in hand, go to people in terms of these forums, these business houses, wherein even the government has opened up a lot of things wherein you can, go and present them that this is a product that we have created. So we want, how we could actually materialize into it. There, when you go there, you start getting an answer in terms of what stage has it reached. Okay, you start gaining. अगर आपको अभी भी उस पे बहुत सारा feedback मिल रहा है, अभी भी उसके अंदर बड़ी सारी interventions समझ आ रही हैं कि you as an entrepreneur would actually get your answer yourself, because you would understand कि नहीं, मैंने इस perspective से इस चीज को नहीं देखा था. I did not, look at this angle. Okay, so as the feedback starts, narrowing down, जितना कम होता जाएगा, मैंने बताया ना आपको, जैसे वहां पे भी वो diverge होता है, फिर narrow down होता है. So this is the stage wherein we would narrow down, जहां हमें लगता है कि अब feedback जो है वो बड़े minimized level पे आ रहा है. Probably easier, familiar things, smaller things which can be resolved quite easily. लेकिन अगर बड़ी चीजों पे feedback आ रहा है, that still need a rework, I yet need to work on my product. I will do multiple iterations of prototyping. Yeah.
Thank you. I would again request the audience to please post your queries into the chat box if you have any.
I think it's lunchtime and everybody's hungry.
Yeah, ma'am, seems like. Okay, I guess we have some questions. No, I guess we have no more questions. Now, ma'am, I would request our co-convener of IIC, Dr. Pooja Sharma, to please come and say a few words to ma'am. Yeah, ma'am,
I would like to thank Dr. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Pooja ma'am. And just a request to all the participants, if you have any queries, if you have any questions, and you would want to reach out to me, you have my email ID as well with the ISC. You can always connect back, and I would be most willing and supporting to help you out. And as of course the fact that I'm also an innovation ambassador, and even if I was not, I would have yet extended my support as a faculty as well. So I'm open to any problems, anything, anywhere. If you want my help, I'm always there.
That's a big help, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Now, ma'am, the institution's Innovation Council extends sincere gratitude to Dr. Pallavi for delivering this session today and enlightening us about creativity and design thinking. Thank you for taking out time from your busy schedule and joining us, ma'am. We are grateful for learning for the learning that you provided through this experience. We extend our deepest gratitude to our principal, ma'am, Dr. Payal Mego, for being a pillar for support and strength. We would like to extend our heartiest thanks to all the teachers for their constant support and motivation. Last but not the least, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the audience for showing your keen interest in this webinar. We hope it provides you with great learning outcome. Thank you so much. Also, I would request the core team of IIC and our dear audience to please switch on your video so that we could take a photograph. I think, Tanya, you can stop sharing the screen and please switch on your videos, core team of IIC and the audience. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you so much, everyone. Thank you.